Welcome to Exhibition. And hello, Euan Macleod.
Hi, Richard. Again.
Great to talk to you again. But look, there's very good reason for speaking with you again, because this is a special edition of the show to focus on drawing. And the reason for that is that you have recently been announced as the winner of the Dobell Drawing Prize 2021. We'll talk about the prize itself and your work in that maybe shortly, but first of all, why is drawing, as opposed to painting, so important to you?
It was lovely for me to win this prize. It was lovely for me to get hung in the prize, actually, I've got to say. Even being a finalist is a wonderful honour, really. It's brilliant. There's some amazing drawings in the prize, I think you'll agree. But yes, that distinction between drawing and painting is a really interesting one. It's a fascinating distinction. And it's an interesting thing for me in a way, because I'm not known for my drawing.
Nevertheless, those people who do know you and who know your practice and who've seen you at work do know that drawing is a huge part of what you do. Maybe not so much of what you exhibit, but certainly of what you do. So why is it so important as what you spend your time doing on location?
I think a lot of it comes down to this aspect of drawing being like a diary. And you don't want people seeing it necessarily. You may look back at it and think, well, actually, I stand behind this, and I'm quite happy for people to look at it. But I think if you've got that thought in your mind before, it might really hinder what you actually do. So for me, drawing has always been a means to an end, and it's been a kind of a shorthand. I draw a hell of a lot, and a lot of it's to do with speed, getting that idea down, because effectively for me, drawing is about getting ideas, it's that your brain working and thinking, taking an idea for a walk, if you like. I mean, people often use that. It's actually, how you're thinking, how you're feeling, what you're thinking about at that time, which is what I find so fascinating about drawings. They're the raw state. They're the basic raw state. Those works on plein air, they're not necessarily for anything at all. I think a lot of people say, well, what do you use those for? Nothing. I just do them. Some of them end up on people's walls, some of them don't. Some of them end up just never being seen. I think there's a lot of drawings there that no one's even seen.
But when you arrive somewhere, whether it's some wild wilderness place or whether it's a suburban beach or a suburban street, whatever it happens to be, when you arrive there, does the process of starting to draw kind of allow you to start seeing?
I think that's exactly what it does. So my way is, when I come to a place, often is actually drawing looking. And it actually gets me to focus on a place. And a lot of the process going to a different area is about trying to understand it a little bit, understand what's different about it. I try very hard, and I hope I don't make all of my drawings all look the same, no matter where I am. But I'm hoping my language is open enough that I can make a bit of see what the difference between France is and Wagga Wagga, or in New Zealand and wherever, whatever place it is. I guess I'm looking for what's different rather than what's the same.
Is there, and I know there are many different interpretations of this, but is there in your mind something which defines something as a drawing rather than a painting?
No, I don't think so. I think, like anyone you try and come up with, like art is or painting is this, you can't come up with them. You cannot come up with anything that is, yes, that's right. So painting has to involve paint. No, it doesn't. You know, drawing has to involve a line rather than form. No, it doesn't. It can be anything. And so this is where it gets a bit tricky. And a lot of people's practice becomes about challenging those notions. But I kind of think, who cares? You know, who cares? For me, it's not important. For me, what's important is what I can use that gives me the means to do what I want to do. And for me, I've never found anything better than paint. I like crayons, but after a while, I found they were just too slow. But now I've gone back to them, and you know, I just take, or maybe I'm happy to take more time now. But whatever it is, I've been enjoying them. And now I don't like a line. I find the line, for me, divides things. It's a separation. And one of the worst things I could do is to do a line and then colour it in. To me, that's just, it's the total opposite of what I want to do, which is to blur that edge. It's that whole abstract expressionist notion of the figure-ground relationship, and the relationship between the forms and how they fit together. In my case, the figure in the background possibly is the basis. But so usually I get materials that help me to do that. And the crayons I've got are beautiful because they're water soluble. They're just Caran d'Ache, very, very beautiful range of colours. But the water soluble nature means I can blur them. I can wash them away. I can erase the whole thing, then rework them, and it gives me the freedom. So for me, drawing is the basics. It's not about producing a product. A lot of the Dobell Prize works have been very finished drawings. They have been more like what I would consider a painting or a finished work. Whereas for me, drawing is more a discovery. It's thinking aloud. So, but can it be a finished product? Of course it can. There's no, it's very, very hard to come up with a definition for anything, really. Definition of what's drawing and what's painting. And it is fascinating. And when you start having an exhibition like the Dobell, where someone is coming in and saying, I'm going to judge what's the best thing here, what's better, this or this, there's a tendency for people to think, oh, is that kind of drawing better than that kind of drawing? You know, is crochet better than video, better than with an HB pencil? You know what? And ultimately, like any competition, what it comes down to is the subjectivity of the judge. And the judge is always going to say to you, that's my choice. That's the one I respond to. That's the one I love. Everybody was incredibly lovely about me winning the prize. You know, no, I didn't get anyone that sort of said, really, that one? Maybe they thought that, though, but they didn't say it, which was nice of them. And a lot of the other artists whom I really admire, you know, seemed genuinely happy I'd won it. And I thought, well, actually, I think I'm very lucky, because I think your work was, you know, certainly another judge wouldn't have judged mine.
Let's look at your Dobell Prize work itself, which was a work made of numerous moments or times of observation, a whole range of individual assembled works. Give us a little bit of a sense of how that work came together.
I did a residency up at the Tweed Gallery with Ron McBurney, and we went out during the days at that time, pre-COVID just, and I did a lot of drawings on that trip. I did a lot of works on paper, and we were allowed at one stage, when the exhibition went on, COVID hit, I think the same day, or so the exhibition never got opened. And so this was the first opportunity we had to go up to that area, and the border was open very, very briefly. So we decided to have a holiday up there, go to the show, And we travelled backwards and forwards over the border a few times, and I just went home with this group of works. I don't know how many there were. There was probably about 25, 30 drawings that I'd done over that period. And so I thought a group of them together would look really fantastic, and it would tell a story. It would tell a story about going backwards and forwards over the border and jumping around, and hopefully add up to a sense of the journey. I got a couple of people to come into the studio and said, "What do you think about these?" And they said, "Oh, maybe not that one, and maybe this one here, and maybe there." So I actually allowed other people to help me choose the format, and it wasn't overthought. It was more putting them on the ground and then thinking, "Oh, maybe that one there, and maybe that one there." So there's a randomness about it. It's almost, hopefully those become kind of slight analogies with how I did the work. Sort of the memories. So a few of them are just sitting on the track. You know, we'd be doing one of those coastal walks or something or other. I'd sit down and I'd whip out my crayons, and sometimes you get people looking at them. They come in and have a bit of a natter, and effectively they end up in the drawing, you know, that people have walked past. Yeah, so that's effectively how it came to be.
And so that work, those collected drawings, in a sense, are almost like a series of diary entries, and as a single work, they're a series of snapshots into your memory.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. I think it's the aspect of having more than one drawing. I think, I mean, you could question, why did I do that? And I did like that idea of a journal, but maybe one drawing on its own would have some interest too. I don't know. But to me, putting the 15 up all together, it did tell a story. And I kind of liken it to probably an exhibition. If you have an exhibition, all those paintings inform each other. They add to each other. And I think that's one of the difficulties. That's one of the reasons I quite like the way that with the Dobell Prize, they've split it into two. And one's an invitation prize. And people that are invited into that have an opportunity to show a bit more. They don't just have to show a drawing. So you get to see a group of work, and you get to look at how the work relates to each other. You know, how those works influence each other, and how it tells a sort of more complete story about the artists. Because that's the one problem with competitions. You see one work and you don't get a sense of where that fits into the rest of the work necessarily. I mean, if you know someone's work, well, then it's not a problem. But if you see someone whose work you've never seen before, which is true for me with the Dobell, there was a few artists there whose work I didn't know. And there's a sense of kind of wanting to know how that relates to their other work. Just a bit more of a deeper understanding.
The works are on display at the National Art School in Sydney, and you have a long history as a teacher in past years. How important do you think it is actually to teach drawing, and how difficult is it to teach someone drawing?
I feel having a really good grounding is important for a student. And I think drawing is a little bit like learning to drive a car. You know, knowing the fundamentals. It's just like instruments. Does anyone ever say to people, well, is it important to know how to play the violin very well? You know, do you need to know that? I mean, it's an obvious. Of course you do. And you think with the visual arts, you know, is it important to know how to, you know, sort of relate from your eye to your hand? Well, I would have thought so, but I don't know, maybe I'm old-fashioned, you know. But I really like the fact that practical stuff is coming back into fashion. It's seen as being important again. You know, how to use a pencil, how to use paint, all of those really basic things. You know, if you want to draw with charcoal, if you want to draw with that, what do you know, how do you draw with line? How do you draw with texture? I guess you teach drawing at different times and different ways. giving people the fundamentals is probably a really important thing to do, and then they decide what they want to do with it, if they want to continue it. So we have a lot of freedom now, which is a wonderful thing. But I still think drawing is a very fundamental aspect of the whole thing, and it does underpin the work for me. It totally underpins the work, and I also just love doing it. So you know, that's it for me. That's my modus operandi, I guess. But in terms of teaching it, it's a difficult one. It's a difficult one. And in terms of what drawing should be, look, I'm not even going to vaguely go there, but I'll know that for me, it is very much a very basic thinking. It's when I'm thinking.
Well, it's been great to hear about what the drawing journey has been for you. And Euan Macleod, once again, congratulations on your winning this year, 2021, of the Dobell Drawing Prize. And thanks very much for sharing those thoughts with us.
Oh, thank you, Richard. Always a pleasure. Really lovely.